Kunaal Singh. Welcome to the Map It Forward podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me.
I met you for the first time a couple months ago and have wondered ever since how it is that you and I haven't crossed paths in 20 years of the same industry in the same city. It's bizarre.
It is. Well, it's not for me because I've actually known a lot of people in the industry, and I actually know a lot of people in the industry. So I've gone to meetings or discussions or competitions. I think I've been to a couple of your ones at CRS. ECA now.
Get it right, bro.
Yes. Sorry, Noah.
We'll learn how to say it, Noah, at some point. We promise.
Back then it was a CRS, and everything used to happen at CRS. So your latte art smackdowns, your roaster smackdowns,
right?
Everything. So I used to go to these events, and when you start networking, you just meet a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I was someone who used to sort of observe first, see what everyone else had to say, what they had to say, see what their opinions are, just take it all on board and see what I could do with that information, like to when I was having a conversation with someone else and see where they were coming from and how I could use the information to help myself understand what the industry is, where the industry is going, because my background is not coffee. My background's I'm from Fiji. We grew up in Fiji, and there is no coffee culture in Fiji, unfortunately. So,
bro, I hear that Shabello's taken over Fiji. Is it Shabello?
Shibello.
I got that information from you, so I'm trusting my resources there.
Pretty much everywhere you go in Fiji, unfortunately.
Or fortunately, depending how you look at it.
Hello. But I tell people the best thing to happen to the coffee industry in Fiji is or was Gloria Jeans until Shibello. And
sorry. All right, that's not me being an asshole. For people who don't know what Gloria Jeans is, it's like Australia's attempt at a version of Starbucks. And it's owned by, I don't know who it's owned by now, but it was at one point heavily invested by one of the versions of the Christian church. And, they use it to proliferate all over Australia. And now it's gone to Fiji, apparently. It's not doing so well here. I don't think I've seen a single Gloria Jean since I've been back.
There's one where I live in Chatswood.
Yeah, they used to be everywhere.
They used to be everywhere.
Yeah, now they're all moved to Fiji, apparently.
Hope not. There's a couple that I know of in Fiji.
Okay. So that's the coffee scene in Fiji, and Shibello is a big roaster over there.
I'm thinking that's the case. My sister would know a bit more about what the coffee scene is in Fiji because she lives there. She works in the aviation industry, but she's also one of the ambassadors for Tourism Fiji. So she gets to travel around and try new places and things in Fiji. But anyway. So,
but your background isn't in coffee, it's in, I would hazard a guess at saying design.
I studied information systems.
Wow.
Thinking it'll be so cool to work with technology because I love technology. And I was thinking, well, I'll study this. It'd be awesome to work with technology. But then when I actually got the job, I had to sit at a desk, write code. And there was you had to wear a suit, but you weren't meeting anyone.
Right.
So there's no point for me to be wearing
corporate shit.
Yeah. I was wearing a suit and it was really uncomfortable. And I mean, look at me. Do you really see me wearing a suit?
I think you'd look hot in a suit, but I think it'd annoy the fuck out of you.
It did. And so one day I just decided to get up and say bye.
Not to objectify you there. I'm sorry if that sounded like I
No,
was
it's okay.
objectifying you. You have to be very careful these days.
No, not with me. Not with me.
Anyway, go on. Sorry. Um,
Um,
uh, Anyone, and for anyone who's listening, you have to go and check out Kunal's Instagram as so that you can understand why I thought he was in design. Like, this dude takes photos that are fucking beautiful. You really have a well-designed Instagram. I understand why you have as many followers as you have. And
thank
we'll include a link in the show notes to your Instagram because you're well worth following. If somebody, I wanted to go somewhere for lunch the other day, I checked your Instagram.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Did you
that's
find
why.
something useful?
Yeah. Remember, I text you and said, hey, where should I go and eat in Bondi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't feel
Yeah.
bad that you didn't help with that. It's fine. It's not your jam. But I did end up checking out other places that we should go to. So that was
Right.
what it was helpful for. I look at your Instagram because I'm trying to relearn Sydney.
Yeah.
The whole coffee scene has changed over here since I've been living in the US. So
It has.
it really has. And I really want to chat with you about that in this conversation. But a really great way that I'm finding to discover new places when I'm comfortable enough being around people again is through your Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know
Cool.
if you realize that's a thing that people do with your Instagram.
Not really, to be honest, because it's just something that I put out there. If I go somewhere, I really enjoy it. The hospitality is amazing. The food's good. The
Mm,
coffee is good. But it doesn't really have to be the food or the coffee side, to be honest. For me, it just comes down to the service and how people sort of sit you down, welcome you, and like into their place.
the
And
hospitality.
yeah, the hospitality is the biggest thing for me. It could be okay coffee, it could be okay food, but then I would actually post about that place because the hospitality is amazing. And if the coffee comes out and the food comes out that's like amazing as well, then that's a bonus for me, in all honesty.
So tell me something. My hospitality, my thirst for hospitality and giving hospitality when I'm working as a barista, it comes from my Arab culture.
Mhm.
That it's ingrained in us from babies, like how to be hospitable. Is that something, a passion that you got from your Fijian culture, or is it you developed it somewhere else?
I think like that's how it is back home. That's how it is in Fiji. It's just such a welcoming thing. Like you
Yeah.
go somewhere, you visit someone, and you are welcome into their homes or into our homes, and you get given kava. So
Yeah.
um, that, that, that's our national drink. That you sort of welcome,
Enjoy.
enjoy. And I think it's regarded as like is something that's like really traditional, sorry, um, that comes from Fiji. It's a very Fijian thing to do, like to offer someone kava.
Which is
Um,
alcohol based, right?
it's not alcohol based. It's a root of a plant.
Of the taro root, right?
Not really. It's a different root.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
about cover then.
Oh my goodness. I'm not that into kava as I am into coffee. I'll try my best. So it is a root of a plant, and it's got you'll really have to drink a lot of it to feel anything.
But it does have a
And
wee bit of alcohol in it, doesn't it?
there's not alcohol. I wouldn't say alcohol. It's got something in it that sort of makes you really relaxed. I'm giving
Yeah,
a
have
really bad
our version
example.
of a joint.
It is a root of a plant. It gets
and
dried in the
and a
sun.
joint is the leaf of a tree. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's like, come into our home. We're going to give you a sedative to calm you down, and then we're all going to have a good time. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's a really great way to you know, like just enjoy yourself. It's very hospitable in my opinion. If we were in California and you walked
Yeah.
into someone's house and they're like, "Here, you want to hit off a joint?" That would be socially acceptable. That's the way you kind of
Wow.
all get on the same vibe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Same. In Fiji, you just
Same,
use
same
kava.
thing. Yeah. So
Here
I
in
guess
Sydney, we'd use
we
coffee, right?
use coffee. That's so true. We use
It's
coffee. I use food, um, food and coffee.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Because you can't covers just gone up in price quite a bit
During
since
the
people start.
pandemic, or
No, just over the past few years when people actually started finding out that it's good for your health, and they started making pills and using it in cooking and whatever. So it's just gone up in price.
I think there's a pretty obvious reason why now people are discovering it. That's not a stretch at all. To get, particularly as in this country, weed's not legal. So we have to find alternatives to bring the gathering to the same level.
Yes, but yeah, without giving too much away, but with kava, I think it just got people started using it the wrong way,
Right.
because if you mix certain things with kava, it just becomes super strong, and you could be on a high for days, pretty
Wow.
much.
Okay. Let's
And
not
so
have kava together with at our Sydney Coffee Town Hall. Let's not introduce kava because I can pretty much guarantee there's a few people in there that would do that. Uh, drink too much and be totally fucked up for too many days.
it'll be cheaper to actually order 50 pizzas than to get kava to share between 50 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Surely you've got a hookup, bro.
I do.
Of course you do. Come on now. Excuse me. I pretty much assumed the answer to that. But so you, how did you? What age did you come to Australia?
So I think it was 2005,
Okay.
around there. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we've been coming back and forth since we were kids,
Uh huh.
basically. So
It's
because it's so
close.
close to Fiji,
Yeah.
it's really close to Fiji. So it's either you go to New Zealand or Australia, or you visit the islands.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the move happened in 2005, and I was hoping to get, I guess, a job in information systems,
Yeah.
which I was sort of still studying, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. Me wearing a suit and sitting at a desk for 8 hours.
Hmm.
Um, so
Do you
I
miss that
started.
life?
Not at all.
Yeah. No. Right.
No, no, not at all. Like even if someone paid me like X amount of dollars, like more than what I would get paid to be a barista, I still would say no. And I think the money side is the last thing I actually look at when I do anything.
Hmm.
I actually have to enjoy what I'm doing first, and then the last thing would be the money side.
Yeah.
So money's never interested me. Like it's just good. It's a good thing to have, especially.
It's important. You got to pay your bills. You got to look after being a responsible adult, etc., etc. But it's not
Yeah,
the only factor
it's
to that.
no, not really. And then so yeah, so I started wiping tables in a nursing home, in an aged care
Really?
facility. Yes, and I was like, oh, I've just done this. Like I've just left this job. I still have to pay rent.
Hmm.
So I was like, what do I do now? So there's the nursing home.
I got
The
to
aged
ask
care.
you. I got to ask you. Sorry to interrupt you there. How did your family react to you
Um,
saying, "I want to not work with the stuff that I've been educated to do"?
Look, my mom's super cool. So she's not one of those parents who would
Uh huh.
push you to hey, you have to become a doctor, you have to become
Right.
a dentist, you have to, you don't. So I think that's what I apply now when I'm explaining something in regards to coffee, like when I'm telling someone, oh, maybe bump the temperature down to 92 degrees instead of 96 degrees and see what happens. You don't have to use 96 degrees. So I sort of applied that as well
Mm-hmm.
when I'm teaching. But yeah, she was super cool. She really actually
That's
doesn't
awesome.
mind. Yeah, so I was wiping tables, and I did that for about um, 4 months before they said, "Oh, we actually need someone in the kitchen, and you've shown interest in food, so we would like you to help the chef in the kitchen." And I started working in the kitchen. So it was a 380 bed aged care facility with 5 satellite kitchens, and then the main kitchen prepped everything. So I was
Wow.
chopping up stuff. I was making sure the ovens were all okay, like the stuff in the oven was fine. And slowly, I got trained up to actually started making meals for the aged care facility. So for the whole village. And um, unfortunately, the chef I was working under, she resigned. She got a better opportunity somewhere, and there was no one there. So I got put in her place as the main person, and I had no qualifications
Yeah, that's
to be a chef.
intense.
Yeah, and so I was like, they were like, "Are you comfortable?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm comfortable. I've been doing it for the past 8 months anyway." So I was doing menus. I was making the food,
Mm-hmm.
um, and taking into consideration that like there is a diet requirement for all these people who live there, and was doing that. I think the only time I actually didn't enjoy was just that one day for 10 minutes roughly, where
10 minutes of one day is the only time you didn't enjoy the experience.
yes, because we had
Damn.
this chef who came in
Yeah.
to, which was earlier on when the main chef resigned, and she came in from an agency. She asked me to chop up onions. In Fiji, no one cares which side you chop the onions from, so it's as long as it gets chopped.
They care about that?
Apparently there's a certain way you should chop onions, and being a professional chef, that's how you should do it.
Okay.
So I started chopping the onions the wrong way, and she screamed. She was like, "No, that's not how you chop onions." I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "You've just ruined one onion." And I was like, I started laughing, and I thought she was joking, and she was like, "Get out of my kitchen." So I went, and that was the only time I didn't enjoy working there.
Mm.
Well, obviously she didn't last long. So after that, the manager of the place found a better opportunity, and he resigned, and he went to
Oh,
work for
wow.
Qantas. And so we didn't have a chef, we didn't have a manager, and I got given the opportunity to sort of take up both the roles,
Yeah.
and which was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it, and we eventually got a chef in who was amazing at doing what she was doing, and so I could concentrate mostly on the food side, coming up with different menus with her,
Mm-hmm.
and making things a bit more exciting, I guess,
The
for
guests.
the people who live there. Yeah. So, and the people who work there as well. The only feedback I got, which I was surprised by, was from my superiors. They said, "Your food's coming out with a lot of flavor." So I couldn't understand that when they came back to me saying that. I was like, how can I improve? And they were like, just reduce the flavor.
It just, it's funny to me because as wogs, like we want our food to have flavor. Like that's how you know if it's good food.
Yeah.
It means to have good flavor.
Yeah. So
So I can't imagine how like that must have just totally broken your brain to hear something like that and go, but what's the answer to that? Like, how do you fix this? Has got too much flavor. Like, I don't understand that. What, put more salt, put less salt and pepper on that, or put less seasoning? What do they want you to do in that situation?
let's not have like, so I, the same questions you asking me now, I was asking them as well.
Yeah, I figured.
Like just reduce the amount of flavor. So don't make it too vibrant.
So they want it to be bland.
Just bland. And it just sort of, I guess, didn't surprise me. It shocked me to sort of get that feedback, because I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
Because my whole thing is all about flavor. I've taken that from.
How dare you, chef? How dare you? Make your job as a chef all about flavor. Come on now.
So the soups apparently had way too much flavor, and I started doing really awesome desserts where instead of having just trifle and ice cream, they were getting cheesecakes and chocolate and mint flavored cheesecakes.
And they just wanted fruit.
They just wanted
trifle.
Don't do anything too fancy. Just like make normal cheesecake instead of making
fuck with the system, bro.
But I had this once I got put in that office where the manager used to sit. I made sure that the door was always open for the residents of the place to come in and actually give me feedback, because at the end of the day, that's their home where they live. They live there until, unfortunately, they pass on. So you would want them to, like, because they're paying so much money to live there and be taken care of, you would want them to enjoy 3 or 4 meals they get throughout the day. And I had a lot of conversations. I would go and sit down with these amazing human beings who used to live there, and actually sit with them at their dining table and have a chat with them.
That's so sick.
Whilst they were having lunch and dinner, and ask them honestly, like, for their feedback, and say, like, what do you think about the chicken? What do you think about the dessert? And 99.9% of the time, the feedback was that they can't wait to see what's on the menu the following month.
Awesome.
Except for this one guy, Mr. Fisher, who...
Shout out to Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Fisher used to come into the office and be like, I don't want any grass in my sandwich. And I don't know how he always ended up having salad with his sandwich.
He's the guy who comes in and says, can I have a soy cappuccino with no froth, but can you put the froth from cow milk on my soy cappuccino? That's Mr. Fisher, right?
Yes.
Because in Sydney, apparently baristas should be that skilled that we give that many fucks about your coffee to do that to it. And you're still going to pay a regular price for that. Anyway, we can talk about that shit later.
We can, definitely.
Shout out to Mr. Fisher again. So did you take the grass off his sandwiches?
I made sure every time he ordered a sandwich, I would put a note for the person who was in the cold ladder section to actually prepare his salad or sandwich without any grass. Funny enough,
salad, right?
Salad, yeah. So he would have the potatoes, he would have the beetroot, he would have everything else, but no grass, nothing that was green. And it got to a point where I actually started doing his meals myself to make sure that there was no leaves in his
grass.
Meals. No grass.
Did he appreciate it?
He gave me a nod every now and then.
The royal nod.
Just in passing, he'd be like, and that's it. Or I'd be like, how's lunch, Mr. Fisher? He'd be like, and then that's about it.
A man of many words.
Yeah. So so I was getting told by the residents of the place that the food's amazing, and I was getting told
but there's too much flavor. Oh, but you're getting told by the management it's too much
management.
Flavor. Wow.
That there's too much flavor.
How interesting.
That was very confusing for me, especially like for the first time going from 0 to 100. So basically wiping tables to managing a aged care facilities catering department. and yeah, and thinking you're doing a good job, but then I'm getting told the food's got too much flavor. And so yeah, so this kept going on for a while, and one of my friends said, "Hey, um, let's open a cafe." I was like, "Oh, what do you have in mind?" He was like, "Oh, my uncle's got this joinery factory. We can like sort of design and build everything there." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Is there a site or anywhere you were thinking of doing?" And so Waterloo was the up and coming
Mm-hmm.
uh, suburb where everyone was going to open a cafe. So we sort of probably about a kilometer or 500 meters away from Dank Street, where all the cool cafes were back
I
then.
remember those days.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, actually, I was like, oh, sure, let's do it.
Did you know
And
anything about running a business at that point?
no, no, I thought I've had like 2 years worth of experience in this.
Right. You've got everything that you need to do to open a cafe. You can run the kitchen, he'll run the coffee, everything will be fine. How hard can
Yeah,
it be?
much. So my sister was in Sydney as well at the time. So she was the one who actually knew about coffee. She was the one who told me what a flat white was, what a cappuccino was, what a latte was, what a short black was. And I remember going to her at one point, going like, "Can you tell me again what a cappuccino and a latte is?"
What's the
And
difference?
she'd be like, "The froth, dude, the froth." You know,
How
just the
old were
froth.
you, if you don't mind me asking?
I think I was 22.
Okay. Okay, you're a puppy. Like, it's not like you're in your 30s at that time, and
Oh,
yeah, and you've been in
and I was,
Sydney for 10 years and you've drunk many. Okay, I get it.
and so the coffee I used to drink was a cappuccino with
2
maybe
sugars.
two or three sugars. Yeah, from Michelle's Patisserie.
Shout out to the good old Michelle's Patisserie.
Um, and that was yeah. So we and I decided to what to because it wasn't hard enough to go and open up a cafe with a friend.
No, that's not hard at all.
Yeah, so I decided to, hey, I've got this amazing idea. Let's build everything ourselves.
Okay, because that's not going to break your back either.
So
For
and
anyone
by
who's not Australian that's listening to that wasn't that was a demonstration there of two Australians being sarcastic with each other. This is, I'm sure Kunal's experience was exactly the opposite of easy in any of this. Yeah, I already have seen this story play out many times with clients and shit like this. It's devastatingly backbreaking to open a cafe anyway, let alone
yeah,
open it for the first time, doing everything yourself
yeah,
and not having any idea whether it's going to be successful or not. But you blindly believing, yeah, sure, this is going to be amazing.
yeah. Yeah, so decided so not just build everything ourselves, but to a point where I was like, I'm going to make the furniture myself as well. So the stools were custom made, the tables were custom made, the joinery was custom made, everything was hand built. Um, and it took about, I would say, good 12 months to get the fit out ready and the tables and chairs and all of this done. And then, but then I actually didn't give a crap about what coffee I was going to use. I spent a lot of
Minor
time.
detail for a cafe.
Yeah, right.
Again, sarcasm.
A cafe, and I just spent all my time coming up with a really awesome menu, doing things a bit different, making it look pretty on the plate, all of that. And then I left the coffee side to the very, very last. So that was the
So you
last
had to
thing.
go with Chabello. That's where it came from in Fiji. They also, you doing it, bro. So you
I introduced them to Fiji.
the Fijian guy who looks Indian who's serving Chabello in his cafe that has incredible furniture, but no idea how to do the coffee. That makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Do
I
you
didn't
have
go.
photos of the furniture?
I've got it somewhere.
Yeah, and the next time I see you, I want to see this amazing furniture.
No, it was good. It
Yeah,
was
no,
good.
I'm sure it was.
It was good furniture. So yeah,
What
the
coffee did you
coffee.
end up using?
Um, Bellaroma, which is now 7 Miles.
Okay.
So yeah, I went with Bellaroma. They didn't give me the Bellaroma brand, unfortunately, because I was a new cafe, and they gave me they gave me a label called Gusto, which
Okay.
was good, which is okay.
Would you drink it today?
Probably not. Probably
Evolution
not.
and all that. Um,
Yes, probably not. And everyone that's listening to me now, don't judge me, please. I was young and I was stupid.
I love when people say that. But it's I bring it down to, evolution in palate and all that. The industry's evolved a lot and our palates have evolved a lot. And
Yeah,
so yeah, no one's judging you, bro.
I hope not. Um, but I do share these stories with people who are new to the industry, so they don't think that I was given all of this stuff. Okay, this tastes this way. You should get
Mhm.
peach and caramel out of this. And I was born knowing about coffee and the hospitality industry. No, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I made mistakes I had to learn. So the best way I learn is by doing it myself. If someone tells me to do something and like follow their steps, I would I would fuck up, I would mess up,
Mhm.
and because I was just told if I was to do it myself, I would make a mistake, but make it once, and that won't happen again. So that's the best way to learn. So
I want to deep dive into that idea with you, if you don't mind, because what we
no,
have
not at all.
is we have an industry that's based of because of we have such a low barrier to entry.
Mhm.
We have two types of people that come into the industry for the first time. People who have decided, I love coffee, I don't have any money, I'm going to build everything myself from the ground up and learn as I go. And then we have people who come into the industry with either VC funding or a little nest egg, and they're like, well, I'm going to spend all my money on a really beautiful fit out and then learn everything about coffee as I go.
Mhm.
And both of the two things that are the similarities in that is those are people who are coming into the industry through business and don't know anything about the industry.
Mhm.
And I spend all of my time teaching people about why a synergy between those two things is going to be the determinant factor of success
Yeah.
versus I'll just learn as I go and, I'll get better as I fail.
Mhm.
What decade were you doing what you were doing?
This was in 2008.
Right. So you were coming towards the end of where profit margins were decent.
Yeah.
You would have been experiencing low, but not as low as they are today. Excuse me. Somewhere around the 8% net profit around
Yes.
2000 and then. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that's very correct. Yes.
So now, so there was lots of cafes around, but now there are lots and lots and lots of cafes around.
Yeah.
And so how was it for you as you were learning to navigate this way as a business owner and as a coffee professional and as a chef? How was it for you to learn all these seemingly unassumed lessons?
Mhm.
How to get customers and how to make a profit and how to price products out and things like that. What was that like for you, not having any kind of understanding of what needed to be done
It
ahead of
was
time?
well, first of all, I wasn't a coffee professional
Well, you were trying to
then.
be, right? You were trying
I
to
was,
learn
I
how to
was,
be.
I was actually coffee wasn't even on my list
Right.
to. So coffee was. I left coffee for someone else. I was like, you look after the coffee side. My
Mm.
whole sole thing I would be doing would be awesome food and just pushing that food out, because coffee, people were drinking coffee. People have always been drinking coffee.
In Sydney, it's a part of our
Yes,
DNA.
it is. But I'll explain to you later, like at what point I actually decided that, hey, you know what, coffee is something that something very important, as I guess a part of human life, like, or for someone who's getting up in the morning and going to work, and that first cup of coffee can make or break his or her day.
Big time.
And I learned that the hard way.
What do you mean
So
by
yeah.
that?
So one day we didn't have a barista, so the barista was running late, and
I
usually
don't
two people.
believe you. In our industry?
In our industry, nah, never happens. Never. So the
Oh.
barista was running late. I opened and I was like, all right, 10 minutes, he'll be here. No worries, no dramas. After 10 minutes, he still doesn't show up. I messaged him and I was like, hey, dude, where are you? And he was like, oh, I'm really sorry, the train's been delayed. Um, he'll be there in like 45 minutes. So this is Sydney Transport. Woohoo. And
Yep.
yeah, so he was running late. And I was like, doors are open. I can't close it up again and say, look, sorry, come back 45 minutes later. That's not how you run a business.
No.
And that is the day I actually had to learn the hard way, that I have to know everything about a business. I have to learn every single aspect of running a business, from the kitchen to making the coffee to greeting customers and doing the till by myself. And so this lovely young lady came in. Obviously, she was running late for work. She came in. She was like, "Large latte, please." And I was like, "Okay, shit, here we go." Took the money, made her coffee. I was like, "Oh, looks about right." I put the milk in. Looks about right. Gave it to her. She said, "Thank you." Turned around and started walking away. And then I think at some point, while she was walking away, she took a sip, which which literally stopped her in her tracks.
We want that effect. We want to do that, but for the different reason that I'm assuming that this happened.
She turned around and I was like, oh, she doesn't look happy. She comes
Ouch.
back, puts it down in front of me on the counter, and she was like, this is absolutely shit. And I was like, I am really sorry. My barista's running late, gave her money back. And I was like, come back tomorrow. We'll do a better job. That's all I could do.
Mm.
Never saw her again.
Yep.
Unfortunately. So yeah, so that's when I actually realized, you know what? I actually have to learn about coffee. I actually have to know what coffee is. What happens when you run the shot more than 35 seconds? What happens when you run it below 25 seconds? And everything in between. What's the temperature of the milk? Because when I touched the cup, it was lukewarm. wasn't even hot.
Mm-hmm.
So and yeah.
And that
But
was the
then
eye-opening moment to you of like, oh shit, this is serious business. People in Sydney really care about how their coffee tastes.
exactly. And I was like, it's not about the bacon and egg rolls. It's about the coffee and the bacon and egg rolls.
Right.
The coffee comes first. The rolls come after. So I had it the other way around. I thought the food comes first and then the
that's your
coffee.
point of reference, right? That's your expertise.
Yeah. So I had to learn about coffee, and then I started asking questions, and I was getting nowhere asking the questions that I was looking for answers for. So if I asked someone, they would be like, "Oh, why don't you come and visit our roastery, and then we'll take you through the whole thing," trying to get me to use their coffee instead of answering my one question. Or this is how we do it. You have to sign this paper so that we can share this information with you, just in case you decide to like share it with everyone.
I have so many opinions about that, but I can't say any of them because I own Elixir and we don't tell anyone anything. But that's different. It's a
That's
whole different,
totally different.
it's a totally different thing. Like we've actually invented a whole other product.
Mm.
This is like people thinking that their roast profiles are going to revolutionize the coffee industry or their
And
brew ratios. Or anyway, like it's
that's what it is.
fascinating to me.
So I asked for another grinder so I could run single origins for my black coffee, because I
Uh-huh.
was like, you know what? After drinking over the after this incident, after drinking like a lot of coffee, literally a lot of coffee, a lot of
Mhm.
milk coffee, and then tasting a lot of black coffee, running shot after shot. So after we closed the shop, I used to stay back and just run shots through the machine,
Okay.
um, and just do eyeball it. We didn't have scales or anything back then.
They were the
But
good old days, bro. We didn't. We were
yes,
talking about this at the town hall, weren't we? Like
yes, yes,
we scales existed, timers existed. Why did we not think to apply those tools to what we were doing to get more consistency?
yeah.
And then when somebody did start doing it, we looked down at them at like, you don't know how to be an intuitive barista. Like, I don't need all of that jazz. I
No,
can. And it's when we started doing it, it's like, fuck, my coffee's so much better now that I'm measuring. Right?
yeah, yeah. That's 100%, 100%. And I guess I think I would have gotten to a point where I would have uh, applied the use of scales and things
Mm-hmm.
if the people I was trying to serve to were a bit more open to what was happening in the industry. So going back to me, so I asked for an extra grinder to
Mm-hmm.
run my black coffees. The next question was, people would come up to me and be like, so tell me again why I need to pick a different coffee for my black coffee and a different coffee for my white coffee. And then you try explaining that, like, this is a single origin coffee.
Uh-huh.
It tastes much better than a blend as a black coffee. And they'd be like, oh, but I like my coffee nice and strong. And I'm like, strong coffee doesn't mean that it has to be bitter. So the whole perception that people had was that the bitter the coffee, the stronger the coffee is. So they
Right.
don't realize
What do
that
they
the
mean by
caffeine.
strong as well? Do they mean this? That was a conversation I enjoyed having with people. What do you mean by strong? Do you mean strong in flavor, strong in caffeine, strong in what exactly?
Exactly. So that's the question that we would ask, and I still ask to this day, like, what do you
Mm,
mean by caffeine strong or by flavor strong? And they'd be like, just make it strong.
yeah.
Just make it strong. Okay,
I
sure.
miss working in a cafe. Dude, I'm seriously considering, given there's such a barista shortage in Sydney right now,
Hmm.
I'm seriously considering take like finding a job for 1 day a week just because I miss being in a cafe so much. I've started to take 2 days off a week. This is the first time in 15 years I have 2 days off from work a week,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've earned it, and I'm not apologizing for it. It just means that the 5 days that I am working, I'm working from about 7 a.m. till midnight, and I'm fine doing that because I really look forward to my weekends.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who keep hitting me up saying, do you know anyone who's looking for work? Do you know anyone who's looking for work? And everybody's looking for baristas right now. And
Yeah.
I'm talking to so many people that are running cafes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, fuck, I miss what it was like to prepare drinks for people and to do the hospitality. And I miss that vibe that you get from when someone comes in and gets their morning coffee and says, thank you. This is the only thing that doesn't bitch to me in my day. You know what I mean? You know what that
Yeah.
is? That feeling
Yes.
that you get when someone comes in and says, oh my God, my coffee yesterday made my day. There's nothing like that
Yeah.
feeling, in my opinion. I never got anything that even came close to equating to that kind of engagement when I was in the corporate world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. That is so true.
So yeah, I'm seriously thinking about finding someone that's looking for a barista that I could just do 1 day a week. I
Hmm.
reckon that'd be a lot of fun. We'll see.
I think yeah, just I could hook you up with a few places.
Well, the other reason behind it is I was in lockup in lockup. I make it sound like I was in jail. I was in isolation in San Diego for almost a year with the
Yes.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Being around people is very strange. It's
Right.
very, very strange. And I feel like that could also be a great way to learn how to be around people again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm so confident in that kind of setting, being
Yeah.
around people. When I'm in a cafe right now, it's weird because I'm still, this is going to sound so bizarre. Please don't judge me.
No.
And even at our town halls, well, the first one particularly, I keep looking for the potential of a shooter coming in. Because that's kind of what happens when you're in America. If you haven't grown up around guns and you hear about all these mass shootings that happen, when you're an expat to America, and I've spoken to other expats about this, you spend time whenever you go somewhere always assessing, like, is the person that's just walked in, are they a mass shooter?
Right.
So that coupled with the pandemic is like, I got to learn how to be in normal life again. And
Yeah.
Sydney is living as though it's existing in 2019.
Yeah.
It really is. It's so fucking bizarre to be here. And just learning how to be in the swing of that. I'm very grateful to be around it, but I don't know how to be around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to just go back to the old habits of, I'll just be in isolation because that's really easy. I'm in
Yeah.
a nice place and I can make my own coffee and do it. But that's not what Sydney's about. Sydney's
No.
about being in cafes and being around people and eating amazing food and drinking great coffee. I want to be able to enjoy it because I have the luxury of being able to, because we're not closed down.
No.
So I kind of think that perhaps if I am in a cafe one day a week, I
It
can.
get in the swing of things.
It's a strange idea, I think, but it's also one part of my steps to being reintegrated into society again.
Yeah.
Really does sound like I was in jail.
How about go in and sit in a cafe for like a couple of hours each day?
Yeah, that would be okay, I guess, but I can't do that with the work that I have. I have an astronomical workload.
Yeah.
So doing that a couple of hours a day is just too much a tax. Like I start my meetings at quite early in the day and go till
Mm.
really late. So taking a couple of hours out of that means that I don't end up getting my weekends. And
Yeah. Okay.
that's the thing I'm
Okay.
protecting right now. So yeah, anyway, like I'm thinking about it. It might be a good thing for me. And also it may help a business that is struggling to find a barista for one
That's
day a
very
week.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It is unfortunate that there's such a shortage of baristas, and so many good baristas have just left because of
Why
the
do you
whole
think they've
COVID.
left?
Well, the visas were running out or something around the visas, and the government wasn't fast enough to process it.
Yep.
And that's a lot of baristas that I have known have had to go back, and really good baristas as well, and which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
And now we've got a shortage of baristas, we've got a shortage of chefs, cooks, floor
Yep.
staff, because this was all made up of your international students or students in general.
Yep. For people
Um,
who are listening who don't know, our hospitality industry here is very heavily dependent on not just immigrant workers. It's heavily dependent on people who come here on travel visas, on like from the UK and from different parts of Asia, to come here and kind of have a long holiday, and also work in the hospitality industry while they're doing it. We also hire a lot of chefs because Australians don't want to do the work.
which is true. That's really true. So yeah, that's been really unfortunate that like the government hasn't been fast enough in doing something to retain all of these people or to get them back into the country, where we can like sort of um, get back more into the swing of things, and like businesses aren't struggling on a weekly basis looking for people to work. I've been to 4 cafes in the past couple of days, and all of the 4 cafes, they're looking for kitchen staff and good baristas. There are baristas who they can get, but they are sort of not at a level where they are fully aware of what coffee is and what to do if something happens. So still in a phase where they can't sort of understand what the difference is between a flat white and a latte, or a short black, or ristretto, or a customer comes in and orders something, they have to turn around and look for someone else to sort of reassure them that, yeah, that's right, you can steam the milk up to 65 degrees, that's fine. So and I've worked with a couple of people like that as well, which is good to pair them up with a senior barista or a person who's got more understanding when it comes to the coffee side. But at the same time, you can't leave them alone. So we can find baristas, but then we can't leave them alone behind the machine to do everything themselves. Like they don't have the confidence, or they're not sure if what they're doing is right or wrong. And
on top of that, handling the workload, like that can be. I've seen baristas panic, literally panic, and start, like, I had one barista go white on me and say, "Miss Lee, I'm scared," because we had. I mean, at the time I was working at Harry's, and it was a Sunday. And I don't know if you've been to Harry's on Sundays, but there can be 100 people waiting to get seated. So you've got tables full, you've got 100 people waiting to be seated, and your ticket machine is vomiting tickets constantly.
Yes.
And this was a barista who was convinced he was ready to do Sundays. And I was telling him he wasn't ready to do Sundays. And fucking Noah, again, happened to take the day off. And he and I were working together on the weekends at Harry's. And and this barista had decided, like, "Don't worry, Miss Lee, I can do it. And then at somewhere around 9 a.m., he just looked at me, and he was on shots, and his face was ghost white. And he just said, "Miss Lee, I'm scared." And I mean, for people who don't know what the Sydney coffee scene is like, the coffee drinking culture here is very serious about their coffee, very serious about it. And they expect it quickly, they expect it perfect, and they expect it exactly the way that they want it.
Yeah.
We have a very high standard in pretty much all the cafes that exist in Sydney. That's the requirement. If a customer's going in there, they're going to tell you if your coffee was shit, and they're going to say it in a way that they don't know what they're talking about, but they think that they know that what they're talking about is, the coffee's burnt. Okay, ma'am, what do you mean by burnt? Well, it's just burnt. I know what burnt coffee tastes like. Well, that to us is, we know that this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or can't articulate what they really mean by that. So this barista, right then in that moment, having a senior barista that can coach that person through that moment and say, "Hey, listen, you're going to be fine. We've got 4 hours of getting bent over this way. And so just focus on the 4 tickets in front of you. That's it."
Yeah.
At the end of the shift, he gave me the biggest hug. He's like, "I survived because of you. I survived." I'm like, shit. He was really on the edge. He was really on. But this is the reality of doing what we do. It's why baristas get paid so well here in this country.
Exactly. And that's very, very true. And also that they've also got better equipment as well, which sort of make the whole process faster. So you've got technology like the puck press, and you've got Uber Milk that does the milk for you, and you've got milk dispensing systems where you can just like put your jug in and your milk comes out. All you have to do is just steam it.
Yeah.
And it just, your shots would be if it's a proper setup, then your shots would be coming out like at a certain particular time, or you've got scales now that you can like sort of monitor. But this is the thing that I'm talking about. Like, you've got all of this, you've got the best setup that you can have, but if the person behind the machine is not confident enough to use all of this to their advantage, then that's where shit goes wrong.
And goes wrong quick for everybody.
Very quick, very quick. And they'll be looking around for someone to give them the reassurance that, you know what, don't worry about it, pull the next shot. This is going down the drain, pull the next shot, we'll be fine. And if there's no one like that there, then yeah, it just doesn't work. So people have baristas, but they just need the barista who can come in and be there without them actually physically being right beside them. So that's the main shortage we've got, I guess. And it's the same thing in the kitchen as well, same thing on the floor as well. Like, we've got, as you said, there's 100 people over the weekend. Like, I've been to a few cafes, there's 100 people waiting to be seated, or 50 people waiting to be seated, and there's tables packed. If there's that one person who's managing the floor is not able to manage the floor, then
it's chaos.
It's chaos. You'll have a lot of pissed people who've been waiting in line for 20 minutes, and then you walk up to them and be like, oh, it'll be another 10 minutes. So it's just going to piss them off even more. And these days, it's so easy for people to like say bad things about a business by jumping on Google, jumping on Instagram, just on the socials, and be like, oh, don't go to this place, it's crap. Whereas it's an amazing place, but it's just it can't cope with the staff they've got.
The first line of contact for the business when they arrive there has to be that kind of person who can manage the flow before they bring people into the business. The same as a barista when they've got a queue in the morning, and we know what queues get like here in Sydney. They're the person who can manage the work that's in front of them, but also has their eye on who's coming in and is able to manage the vibe around their machine. It's a performance the whole way through.
It is all a performance. It comes down to the confidence you've got behind the machine and how you sort of portray yourself in front of. This is like being on stage when you're doing your competitions, doing a latte art competition or Brewers Cup, whatever it is. It just all comes down to that.
Oh, I wonder if I've still got it. Now you're getting me really curious about whether I could. I'm a little too excited about this. Yeah, now you've really got me thinking about it. I used to get so fucking vibed off it. It was like, there are some people who do coffee because, they're really interested about coffee. I do coffee because I'm interested in hospitality.
Yeah.
And I love coffee. I'm interested in the coffee side of hospitality.
Yeah.
I love the engagement with people and being able to manage, a really rigorous workflow, and seeing people get jazzed off the vibe that's created around a coffee machine here in Sydney. It's poetic in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that it becomes the life force of a restaurant or a cafe if it's done well. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's enjoying themselves, even though they're waiting for 5 to 10 minutes for a coffee. The barista knows that that person that's standing over there and that person that's standing over there should probably meet because they have a lot in common. So they know how to introduce those people while they're coming, culling through 40 tickets that they have to get through. And they're able to make that a more interesting environment for everybody, so that now they've got a friend every time they come to the coffee machine.
Exactly. That is so true.
And the first time I met you, I don't know how, but I instinctually knew that you were that kind of barista. That's who you are, right?
That is exactly who I am. It's just being, I don't know, it's just being in the industry. If you've if you don't come with the openness to meet people or the interest to meet people, or if you've got this mentality where you want to make coffee but you just want your head down and just concentrate on that, it's just not going to work.
Not at all.
It's not going to work.
We both know people who are like, I need everybody to know how fucking shit hot I am at measuring stuff out. But nobody cares.
No, you can measure as much as you want to measure. You can, like, you can make the perfect cup of coffee, give it to someone you have not interacted with at all. They would just take it away and be like, coffee. They wouldn't go.
That's what I mean by nobody cares.
Yeah.
I tell this to people a lot. A customer is focused on what their experience of your coffee is of the coffee that they're drinking is going to be. They don't care about what your experience of their coffee is.
Yeah.
And too many baristas are focused on, but this is what I did to create that. But if you think about it as a chef is intensely focused on what they're creating on a plate.
Yep.
And then it goes out to the table, and the person who's eating that gives zero fucks about the chef that created this and is constantly engaging with the conversation that they're having at the table while they're eating their roast chicken.
Yes.
Or avocado toast, whatever it is. They don't give a fuck about the chef.
No.
We really need to have that kind of understanding when it comes to creating the coffee, like disconnect from it. Give it to the person, let them have their experience of it. But your job is to keep them engaged and okay before they get it, so that when they get it, they're already decided that they want to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. It's always nice when the barista sort of engages with you. Like if I've gone to a cafe, they've just taken that extra 10 seconds out of making the next docket where they've like actually brought something over to me, or while I'm waiting for my coffee, just to like sort of say, hey, this is an amazing Colombian and naturally processed and it tastes epic. That's all I need to know. That's it. And if they've sort of taken that much time out of their next docket and sort of just said that much to them, that shows that they appreciate the coffee, as well as they want me to experience what they appreciate as well. And even if someone's bringing a pour over that I've ordered and they've come out with the pour over and they say like, this is what I've done, but you could enjoy it whichever way you enjoy it. But like, have the sparkling water first and then let the coffee cool down for another 30 minutes or 30 seconds, sorry, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds before you pour it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that just shows that this person wants me to experience the best out of this coffee.
Right.
And actually they've taken the time out to come and like tell me that much information and just go back to doing what they're supposed to be doing. Not stand there and like watch me drink my coffee and so what do you think?
Right.
Like that's not me enjoying my coffee. I'm enjoying my coffee in my own time. That person's given me the information, I've taken it on board, and I'm going to enjoy my coffee now.
I like to go to cafes where I don't know anybody that's serving.
Yeah. That's
it's important, right?
Yeah, very.
So that we can enjoy our fucking coffee.
Very important. So, but then yeah, it's just you get sort of, I guess, a little judged by what you order. As soon as you order a pour over, there's this mindset of these baristas. They think, oh, this person's definitely in coffee. They know what they're doing, so we have to make this properly. Whereas if I go to a cafe and they know me and I order an espresso, they'll run the shot 10 times before they think that they've got the perfect shot to give to me. So I've been waiting there. So you've got two.
Yep. And I just want my fucking coffee, bro.
Yeah, just the coffee's fine. Like just the coffee's fine. Like you don't have to run like the shot 10 times. But like it is what it is in the industry, I guess. It's going to take a while for what our changes that we want to happen to sort of take effect, I guess. And it is very unfortunate that it's not already taking effect. And
What kind of
I
changes
think
do you think?
that a lot of just the education side, mostly for the general public, they understand better what coffee is. They understand what we understand or what we know. They understand what happens from like the very first point, which is, let's say, point A to point Z, which is us who are making the coffee. And then the consumers, they're drinking it. And I guess let's just say point Z is them. They're the people who are actually drinking the coffee. Just say get Colombian coffee. That's your point A. What it actually goes through to get to that point where that person's actually got it in the cup and drinking it. If they could understand that part, then we would be able to sort of make our lives so much easier by saying, you know what, this coffee is $8, and they'll be like, sure, man, why not?
Right.
It's $8. Here's
This
$8.
goes to the. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they'll be like, here's $8. But if I was a barista and I was like, this coffee is going through this, and this, and we're charging $8 for it. No hospitality involved, none of that interaction with the customer, nothing like that. I would be a bit hesitant to pay $8, honestly, when this person's just they were just a barista. So the hospitality side, I guess, comes into play massively for me. That is, like, if
I
I
like
was
that
to
you
go,
qualified that for you.
yeah,
Because there's a whole other sector of the general population that's like, I would pay extra not to have to engage with anybody.
yes. So there are people like that. Whereas if I get like the best, not the best hospitality, if I get hospitality, like a really awesome hospitality, and someone comes up to me and be like, hey, we've got this coffee, $30. Sure, man. Yeah, I'll try it. I'll pay $30 for it. Of course, like you've been amazing, like what you've done. Like you've come out with this coffee, you've explained to me what this coffee is. I enjoyed it. I liked what you did. And like, if you recommend that one and it's $30, 100%. I've bought coffee that's been so expensive, and I didn't hesitate because I think I understand coffee as well as what I've been provided with and what the barista has done or the producer has done or the roaster has done with that coffee, and how they've sort of like sent their message out. It's been amazing. So I haven't hesitated to buy like $100 bag of coffee because it's sort of how the coffee portrays itself.
We're very lucky and privileged as baristas in this country to be able to have the privilege to do things like that. In most other countries, baristas are not paid very well at all. No. And that's not to say that every barista in this country gets paid very well, but the minimum wage for a barista here is $24.50.
Yeah.
So, baristas here can work hard, can end up saving money and buying houses and doing all that kind of stuff. Like even though Sydney's a very expensive city, there are opportunities for baristas to like enjoy a $30 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Most baristas in other countries, like in the US, baristas struggle to pay rent and eat. A lot of them don't get to eat if they're not working.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's listening, who's thinking like, why can these guys do this kind of stuff? Well, it's because we don't have a tipping system over here, and it's our employer's responsibility to pay us a living wage. And the living wage in Australia, well, I can talk about in New South Wales, is set at $24.50. So, that's how we can afford to do something like that. There's a sector of what I want to, so going back to that thing of like, there's a kind of people in this, in Sydney who don't want to engage in anyone at all. And I wonder how that's shifted during the pandemic, because a lot of my friends are in corporate and they're like, you wouldn't know the Sydney coffee scene anymore. In the city, we like from work, I arrive there, I order my coffee off an app.
Mm.
It's I put my bag down, like I park my car, go up to my office, put my bags down, walk down to the cafe. It's waiting for me on top of the coffee machine. The app charges me. It takes my money. It tells them what the order is. The coffee's waiting on the coffee machine. I literally talk to zero humans at my favorite cafe, and I love it that way because I'm super busy and this is just how everybody orders coffee now. I'm like,
Mm.
wow, that is so different to what coffee used to be like when I was working coffee 5 years ago here in Sydney.
Yeah.
How has that changed, do you think, with the pandemic, driving people out of the CBD or the downtown area
Mhm.
into suburban,
Yeah.
working from home? And how do you think have you observed any changes?
I have actually. So my partner works in the corporate world as well,
Hmm.
um, and she works from home at the moment as well. So she loves to go out, like loves to sort of
Yeah.
go and like see what's happening out there and like enjoy a cup of coffee somewhere else other than at the desk at home.
Uh-huh.
And I would say good. I actually throughout the whole pandemic, let's just say like so there've been a lot of um, cafes that had to close in the CBD, which was
Mm,
unfortunate. When, as you said, like that drove people out into the suburbs, where the cafes that weren't busy became busier. So they didn't actually have to close down during the pandemic. They stuck with takeaways, which was amazing for these cafes because they didn't have to close down and they didn't have to like let go of their staff,
mm,
or they had to like sort of they could rotate their staff. Like, hey, say instead of working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, why don't you work Monday and Tuesday and get this person to come in on Wednesday and Thursday, and then this
hmm.
person Friday, Saturday. So they could still keep the staff and rotate the staff as well. But
Your phone's
and,
definitely going off something crazy. We can hear it through the
well,
desk.
can you? It's probably my,
And
it's
I can
probably
see the reflection in your glasses. Nice.
Instagram. Um,
Instagram. Oh, dear me.
just quickly, it's so the Instagram is not just about food and coffee.
Uh-huh.
It's because a lot of people who young baristas who follow me from countries like Indonesia and like all these in Thailand, in Fiji, who are really interested in coffee and want to get into coffee.
Uh-huh.
They usually I let people message me about
That's
anything like
awesome.
coffee related. So they can message me about coffee and say like, "Hey, what did you think about the coffee that you had yesterday?" So someone messaged me yesterday saying like, "What did you think about the coffee that you had yesterday? It was a geisha." I was like, "Oh, it was amazing. It was really good roast." And they asked me about the flavor profile, and I explained to them about or what it was, and they were really happy that
Yeah,
they
awesome.
can like get in touch with someone and sort of have this information. So going back
Hmm.
to um, the people that I met, um, they were all happy to get out of their homes and come and like sort of actually even get takeaway from this cafe or the cafe down the road, so they can actually get out of the house and like have that interaction
Yeah, wow.
with someone else other than their partners at home. Um,
Coffee industry saving marriages all over Sydney.
exactly. So there's another thing that we do. Um, or if they've got pets, they can like take the pets out for a
Yeah.
little stroll. Um, that's like one side of the other spectrum, like that you've said, like people who don't want any interaction and they just want to
Mm,
jump on this app. I know a few cafes that have cancelled these services,
mm.
so to encourage people to come and sort of like have the interaction. So you don't get Uber Eats, you don't get Hey you don't get like any app orders from these cafes. They've gone to set up their own system where they can like get people to call up and then come
Mm.
and get the food themselves
That's
instead of
interesting.
going through an app and have no interaction at all. So, and it's been successful. it's been really successful.
Do you think it's
So
been successful because people are thirsty for engagement with each other and they're taking the opportunity to do that?
I think the people that I've spoken to, yes, they've said that they were looking forward to this, and they
That's
just
awesome.
needed an excuse to come out of their homes, go for a stroll, and just get this cup of coffee or get this sandwich or whatever they've ordered. And yeah, and whereas in the CBD, obviously, it's always been very different. It's always been app, or they don't have time to wait for their cup of coffee,
Mm.
and they just want it ready so that they can like grab it and go. And this was the case even before the whole COVID situation. Um, and but the majority of the people that I've spoken to, they sort of appreciate the interaction they get from another human being who's
Mm.
preparing the coffee or preparing the sandwich or lunch or whatever it is. Just like even saying hi or hello and like, how their day was, or like, what they're getting up to. Are they working from home or are they back in the office now? Which
Yeah,
is your
right.
general conversation these days.
Is it really?
Uh, yeah. So
I'm very
and
disconnected from everything, bro. So I'm
and
fascinated to hear what's happening in the world.
usually you would ask someone like, oh, are they back in the office?
Yeah, wow.
um, and they'd be like, "Oh, not yet," or I have Mondays and Wednesdays in the office, and the rest of the day I'm stuck at home, and that's why you can see them more in the cafe than you would have if it wasn't for COVID.
Does Sydney cafes have Wi-Fi yet?
Most of them do, yes.
Really? So
Yeah,
that's changed in 5 years too.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So I think the technology's improved. So you've got NBN rolling out,
Yeah, wow.
uh, which has sort of given us or the cafe owners that extra bit of, I guess, push to like sort of have Wi-Fi in cafes, where you can keep up with um, multiple computers or devices connected to that one spot.
And no, what I mean by is, do Sydney cafes have Wi-Fi yet? Is are customers allowed to use the Wi-Fi?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes, yes, yes,
so they can. So if
yes.
somebody wanted to bring in a laptop and work from, wait, let me back up. For anyone who doesn't know, Sydney was famous for no Wi-Fi in cafes.
Yeah.
5 years ago, you were like baristas would frown at you if you asked for the Wi-Fi password. It was a way that we protected the industry from being smothered by people sitting on laptops at their cafes and occupying a table forever. And it's a real problem in the US. It's a real big problem. People, well,
Yeah.
not now because no one's in cafes, but it was a real problem where people would come in, buy a latte, sit there for 5 hours on a latte. And we
That's
didn't do that here. We protected that from happening here. But now I'm hearing from you that we have changed that. So what's the go there?
the go there is that a lot of cafes have a time limit on the table due to COVID, because we had
Right.
to get rid of X amount of tables depending on the size of your cafe. If it was a big enough cafe, then yeah, you could definitely sit there for an hour and a half, and then you would give someone else the opportunity to occupy the table. And I have noticed that a lot of the time people would come in, sit down with their laptops, and not even stay for an hour, because like they just do something quickly or they had to do
Right.
something quickly and they would do it and just go about doing what else they had to do throughout the day. So that has also changed, where that's actually all reserved. So if you wanted to stay longer, that's reserved for Starbucks. So you go to Starbucks, you order your iced frappuccino macchiato, and then you sit there
Such
for.
a hater, bro.
I am not actually. I've actually worked at Starbucks.
I
I
remember
have.
giving you a hard time. I give everybody a hard time about hating on Starbucks. I'm like, yeah, but in America, we wouldn't have an industry if it wasn't for Starbucks.
Very true. Very true.
Here, not the same deal. Here, we had the Starbucks. I remember the day Starbucks closed all its stores.
Mhm.
Um, they're starting to creep back in now, but Have you ever read the article about why Starbucks failed in Australia?
Not really, but
There's an
from
article out. It's fantastic.
my time at Starbucks, we actually went in just to see what made Starbucks work, or what made Starbucks sort of stand out with the crowd that follow Starbucks. So you would have people who would go in on a daily basis for Starbucks, and sort of they've got a massive following, regardless of someone hating on them or not, or someone like being a fan of them or not. I don't mind Starbucks. I just love what they've done and what their whole the whole way or whole concept is, and which is something that I didn't understand before, which I do now. So I applied to go in, take some time off work and go into a few years ago, go into Starbucks and applied for a job. And they were like, oh yeah, sure. With your experience, you'd be well suited for this role. So I applied for just a barista. And I have to say, like, they've got one of the best HR I sort of had to deal with. And their whole environment, work environment, and everything they do for their employees is just amazing. It's just amazing. I should actually tell a few
Go for it.
owners to actually go there, business owners to go there and actually like see how they operate, like behind the scenes, if they had the opportunity to. But yeah, going into Starbucks, learning. So they've got manuals for everything. So their manuals were like 500 pages, 700 pages even. They've got codes for everything. So all their coffee that comes out has a code. So that's what you see on the side of the cup. Everything's coded. That only the baristas would understand. You wouldn't understand. They can get all of that right except your name. So that's the only downside about Starbucks.
They always get your name wrong.
They will get my name wrong. But all that aside,
it's famous on Instagram though, isn't it? Like people from Starbucks spelling people's names wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems to be a skill that you have to have if you want to work at Starbucks.
Yeah. Whilst I was training on the till, when I was getting people's names, they were like, you have to be faster. You have to like keep people moving. Because I made sure that I kept asking their names until I got it right on the cups.
Right. And they're like, 0 fucks given. Move along.
They were like, no, you have to make them like, just ask them once or twice and that's it. Just write down what you think is right. So if it's Ellen, if you wrote down Elaine, that's fine. No worries.
And yet the internet's made a meme of it.
Yes. What Starbucks does is just amazing with how they take care of their employees, how they've come up with a business module where every single person that goes through the training comes out doing what they do behind the bar. So, and remembering about 14,490 different combinations at Starbucks, which is a fact actually. I think it is 14,490.
Oh, that's a real number?
That I think, as far as I can remember, I think that's a real number that you can, those are the combinations that you can get at Starbucks.
Jesus.
So imagine going through all of that, going through manuals. So it's a 3 weeks training to become a barista, and then another couple of weeks to become a manager, which they actually realized halfway training me that like, I would be suited for this brand new store coming to Chatswood. And I should be given the opportunity to run the store. And I was like, oh, damn it. I'm here undercover trying to learn what makes Starbucks work. And they've given me a job as a manager of this brand new store.
And I don't want to be following a career track this far into Starbucks, right?
No, yeah. So they've got everything. So it's like basically a well-oiled machine, how they work. And now I fully understand what makes Starbucks work. And it's just how they greet customers, how they prepare the drinks, how they try and sort of eliminate waste, and at the same time taking care of their employees, which they put first, and they put the customers second, which is amazing. So
So they put the employees first and the customer second.
yes, so
And yet,
employees come first.
and yet you never really hear of Starbucks customers complaining about the customer service or feeling like they're
No,
never taken care of.
no, because they take care of the employees first, and they put the customers second. That's probably why um, no one complains,
Mm.
because the employees are taken care of. They can take care of the customers,
Yep.
and there won't be any reason for the customers to complain about anything.
Yeah, that's really interesting kind of model, right?
It is very interesting, and I'm just thinking if everyone actually applied this and took care of the employees more, the employees would be happier.
Mm.
The employees would pass on those good vibes to the customers. The customers would uh, enjoy or appreciate more, and then we can charge $8 for that cup of coffee.
Because from the perspective I'm hearing you say it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. When an employer puts the customer first, it's kind of a low-key kind of way saying, well, I'm actually putting myself first because as the owner,
Yeah.
because if the customer's happy, they're going to keep coming here, they're going to keep
Mm.
paying, and it's going to increase my bottom line. So ergo, I really give zero fucks about my employees unless that means that they're going to keep the customers coming here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So I honestly go to a lot of places.
Yeah,
Um,
you do.
I do. I go to a lot of, and there's a few repeat places that I sort of go to, and it's just because you can see how the employees are, and
Mm.
you can see like they actually take pride in what they're doing. It doesn't matter what they're doing, making coffee, making food, or on the floor. And once you see if the employer is there as well, if the person who owns the business is there as well, and if you see the interaction between the employer and the employee, and it's just sort of, it just has like this amazing vibe about
Mm-hmm.
it, then everything works,
Mm.
and you feel not like you're in someone else's business. You just feel like you're part of that whole um,
Experience.
experience, and you're part of the whole family, or you've gone there and you just welcomed so nicely into their world, and you can like sit down, enjoy, have a little bit of banter, talk shit, whatever,
Mm.
not just like he's an employee, I have to be like be a customer, I
Do you
guess.
think that we as hospitality professionals approach that environment different to the way the general public does? Or do you think that the general public wants that experience as well? I've always
Some
wondered
of them
that.
do. You get people who walk into a place who feel very privileged to be there,
Mm.
who expect certain things, who expect um, to be waited on hand and foot. If they raise their hand, someone has to be there straight away.
So they act privileged rather than, and they feel that they're
Yeah,
owed a certain level of
exactly.
experience, right?
And I think, and it just comes down to who's working as well. Like um, if an employer trains their employees a certain way, where they put their employees first and say like, look, this is what you have to do.
Mm.
You have to look after the customers, but just put yourself first. If an employee is not feeling confident, or is like feeling overwhelmed, it's a good thing if they just go, hey, can I just quickly go outside for like 2 minutes, can you mind this for me? If I was the
Mm.
employer, I'd be like, you know what, go for it, don't worry about it, I've taken care of this, like it's just 2 minutes. That person comes back happier, whatever was happening, or like the overwhelmness or whatever it was, it's just gone. He's happier, he can look after that customer better than
Feels
having.
respected. He feels heard.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
feels much better. He no anxiety or no overwhelmness, he can go to the customer and like deliver the best that that person can deliver. And I feel if the employer goes, you can't say that, you can't do that to the customer,
Mm.
then yeah, it just comes down to like, oh, this person's putting the customer first. I'm not saying it's wrong you can put the customer first, because at the end of the day, that person is basically paying my wages or paying your wages, paying
Right.
the employee. But then again, if I'm not, as an employee, if I'm not feeling 100%, I wouldn't be delivering 100%.
It makes sense. It's a really sensible approach to managing the chain of custody of wellness.
Yes.
You know, if the employer is taking care of their employees and the employees are taking care of the customer, that makes sense
Yep. Yep.
far more
And
logically than our industry approaches it.
yeah. And just going back to Starbucks, and this is something that I've always admired about Starbucks, that how they sort of handle this situation. Like when it was unfortunate while I was there, for the 3 months I was there, to just see how everything worked. And one of the staff, a family member passed away.
Mm.
So obviously you can't be at work. So
Mm-hmm.
that was it. That was it. Like that person was asked to sort of, stay as long as you need to stay, but you won't be working. So you can just stay here, just relax, chill, make phone calls to anyone you need to make phone
Mm-hmm.
calls to. That person was given a taxi ride home. So his taxi was
Wow.
paid for to go home and or go wherever they wanted to or needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were put on paid leave for 3 weeks.
Yeah. 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 It's pretty amazing how well they look after their staff. One of a guest that's been on this podcast a couple of times, Jimmy Canali. Shout out to Jimmy.
Mhm.
He was one of the managers at Starbucks Reserve in Seattle. Have you ever been to that store?
No, I haven't, unfortunately, but it is on my list.
Yeah.
I know someone who used to work at one of those stores, and she loves it. She loved it.
Yeah.
Logan, you've met Logan at
Yep.
the town hall.
Yep.
Yeah. So she speaks very highly of those stores.
Yeah. Jimmy used to be one of the managers there, and he was actually the manager when the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening last year broke down all the glass as
Mm.
they tried to storm the store. Like, to give you some context, it used to be a car dealership. So you
Right.
know how thick the glass is on car dealerships. They
Yeah.
smashed through that while Jimmy was in the store
Wow.
because the store was open. This was last year. And the way that Starbucks took care of the mental health of their staff
Mm-hmm.
after that situation was quite extraordinary. The attention that they paid to their staff's well-being after they'd experienced that trauma
Mm-hmm.
was really one. As Jimmy's friend, I was so glad to know that he was being taken care of, as well as he was being taken care of by Starbucks, having just endured that traumatic experience. But then to see the way that the aftercare took place and the space that they provided for their staff to recover from something like that, and then had a plan for them figuring out what the next steps were, I was just so impressed.
Yep. I think I was the same when I found out, like, this is how they take care of their staff, and and how much they sort of follow up after they sort of initially send you away in a taxi to be where you need to be, like
Right.
the follow, like emails first of all, and then like a phone call from someone in from Starbucks would be like how they were doing, just to check up if they needed any counseling, or if they needed something
Mm.
more than that, then they are more than happy to like sort of pay for it. And you go there and you just like talk to someone,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
then reintegrating them back after whatever the event was into their work life. That was amazing as well. Like, you don't have to come back full swing into making coffee and like taking care of customers. You just come back when you're ready, and You don't have to come back for the whole week. You can come back for a couple of days or even like a couple of hours, even if you have to. And
That's real dedication to employee wellness.
yes, it
That's
is.
awesome.
It is massive. And I also know a few people who work um, at Starbucks. I work with um, at Starbucks as well as in our side of the coffee industry.
Hmm.
Um, and I asked him the question like, why are you still at Starbucks? I mean, you've got such an amazing so you're an amazing barista, and like you can like sort of go and like do specialty
Work in
coffee
specialty.
somewhere else. They're like Starbucks takes care of me in ways that no one else does,
Hmm.
like in the industry. Like they're more than
Oh
happy to
yeah.
stay with Starbucks as well as like every now and then do a couple of days somewhere else in specialty. But their full-time job would be Starbucks. They wouldn't leave Starbucks. So
And cafes find it difficult. They struggle to find staff that are that loyal to them.
yeah, yeah.
At the recent town hall,
Hmm.
we, I think, started to get to the heart of. Wait, let me back up. For anyone who's listening who doesn't know what I'm talking about a town hall, we have these weekly meetings. That's a lie, Lee.
Monthly.
I even do
You
that at the town halls, don't I? I'm like, next week,
need.
there's no next week about it. Every month. And this is, I keep tripping up, like I said, even at the town hall, like next week when we come back, no, once a month, we've done this twice now. The Sydney coffee industry are invited to come together to an open forum and just have discussions about stuff that matters. And it's something that 5 of us have kind of come together to create. And it's going to exist as long as people show up for it, right? If people don't show up, the town hall doesn't exist. If people show up, the town hall exists. And the first town hall we discussed, should we be charging more for a cup of coffee in Sydney, which was a really interesting conversation.
Mhm.
And then the second discussion was, how much does it cost to make a cup of coffee in Sydney? And that was also an interesting conversation. Were you surprised by the numbers that you saw Noah present?
No, not really, to be honest. Like, it's sort of you sort of learn this very early on when you are, especially if you're running your own business. You
Mm-hmm.
learn this very early on that if you charge X amount, you will not make half of that. You'll make a fraction of that. So these numbers, which is very unfortunate, that has not changed at all over the past 12, 13 years since I've had my cafe to today. It hasn't changed at all. So a cup of coffee is still the same price that I was charging back then. People are still charging the same price now, and it's just people turn around to me usually and go like, "Did you know this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, unfortunately, I did back then."
Yeah.
And
So you knew when you had your cafe that the margins were going to be that razor thin for coffee?
I actually, unfortunately, found out after opening.
Right. That makes sense. It happens pretty much 100% of the time.
Is because, as I said, it was mostly I went in for the food side, and then I made coffee part of me through certain things that had
Right.
happened with the shit coffee that I made for someone. Um, so yeah, then I had to run the numbers and see how much I was making selling a cup of coffee, and like yeah, it came down to about 16 16.5 cents.
Yeah.
That was my numbers. Um, and yeah, it was eye opening, I guess.
That's
Like it was
13
like,
years ago. And to know that these days it's it's around that same number 13 years
It
later.
is, it is hovering around, 18 cents to 20 cents if you're lucky.
Oh yeah, and those numbers that Noah presented,
Mhm.
and there's an episode of the Daily Coffee Pro coming out with detailing a lot of that stuff. Those numbers that he presented weren't like all inclusive. They just
No.
included the main operating costs. They didn't include fit out. They didn't include like legal fees and things like that. And so when you look at those numbers to get to a net profit of 15 cents per cup, it
Mhm.
could be even half that if you
Yeah.
start to look at a complete profit and loss statement associated with that. And we were
Yeah.
talking about how, like, if you've got a loyalty program,
Mhm.
you're so super fucked.
Very. Yeah. Very. Um,
Did you
the
know that?
loyalty.
Did you know, like, when you opened your cafe, did you have a loyalty program?
I did not. I didn't have a
Yeah,
loyalty
that's
program.
awesome.
I didn't have a loyalty program because my thinking was that if I can produce something that's amazing, that should bring people in.
And did it?
It did. It did.
Yeah,
It
awesome.
it brought people in. Um, but at the same time, it brought people in with questions as well, like why wasn't I doing the loyalty program when the cafe down the road was doing the loyalty program?
Yeah.
Why? What makes us so different? Why? Like there was a lot of whys.
Hmm.
Why do I have to choose this coffee? And why are you guys trying to push different coffees for a cup of coffee? Why can't we just have the one coffee and then just use the same coffee to make all the coffees? So yeah, there's always going to be the whys that come with anything you do. People will ask a lot of questions like why. It's just getting them to realize that, like, you come in here because the service is amazing, the coffee is amazing, the staff are amazing, that's why you come back here. The loyalty card system, they should look at it as just a bonus that could go away any day. It shouldn't become a part of
Yeah.
it shouldn't become a part of their daily ritual to pull out the loyalty card and be like, here, I've just paid a visit to your cafe. This is my
Give me
entitled
my
stamp.
free coffee, bitch.
Yeah, exactly that. Um, and people who come with two loyalty cards, oh, can I get this transferred into this one so that I can get my free coffee earlier? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so people will always be like, why about everything?
What did you
Um,
think when we were talking about when we started associating the number of the net profit, the 15 cents, to a loyalty program and free coffees and all that kind of stuff? Was that a bit of an eye opener?
that was, I think, I never actually thought about the loyalty program that way.
Mm,
So it was like with any other business, right? You go to someone, like if you go to an accountant, they will charge you obviously for their
right.
services. I don't. So if I was to ask an accountant, hey, do you guys have a loyalty program? What do you think they would
That
say?
would sound absurd, doesn't it?
Exactly, right. And I don't understand why. Like when we say, like, I'm sorry, we don't have a loyalty program. Like as a cafe owner or cafe business, I don't understand why it makes people so surprised. They just frown upon you, like, oh, how dare you not have a loyalty program? I don't know who started this, but the loyalty program. I think that people shouldn't encourage people to have loyalty programs, especially in a
I
cafe.
agree. I mean, because as we showed in like through the discussion that we were having at the town hall, for every so if you have a 10 cup loyalty program, just off a 350 latte,
Mm-hmm.
where you're making a net profit of about 15 cents,
Yeah.
the first 9 coffees, you're making 15 cents off each of them.
Mm-hmm.
Once you give the 10th coffee away for free, the net position after those 10 coffees have happened is negative $1.20, I think 6 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
you
is.
end up losing.
Yeah.
And every coffee you give away, just to recover the costs of a coffee that you give, like, let's say someone comes in and you give them a free coffee without a loyalty program even, or you waste a coffee because, you know, it said it needed soy milk and you used cow or whatever, you have to sell another 20 coffees just to cover the cost of that coffee. So if you've got 3 staff that are giving away a coffee every day, you've got to make 60 coffees just to cover the costs of those 3 coffees.
Yeah.
So when we go back to what you were talking about with Starbucks, none of the stuff that they offer that looks after their employees, none of it's cheap.
No.
None of it's cheap. It all costs money. And it's not like wishy-washy, hey, let's go bowling and that's the stuff. Like it's real legitimate shit that staff want to feel seen and heard and looked after by their employer.
Yep.
A reason that I believe that most smallholder cafes cannot even come close to being able to look after their staff that way is because they don't understand how their profit and loss statement works, and they don't understand how cost breakdown analysis is working. And they think that just by giving a free coffee here and there, it's not really harming the business at all, because, you know, there's, you know, it only costs 50 cents to make a coffee.
Yeah.
That's the general understanding out there, is like on the high side, people would say it costs $1 to make a coffee.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And I think it's, I mean, we need to turn this all around, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Can you see that happening in Sydney?
Not anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Not anytime soon. It just takes a lot to get people to change.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they're used to something that they've been doing for years and years and years, that like generations have been doing for years and years and years. And it's just going to take a very, very long time for just a handful of people to sort of change that all around. It will need more of us to sort of get together, first of all, agree with what we're saying, just like you and I. So, and then pass this on to the other people in the industry first. Once the industry sort of understands this, what we're talking about now, then it'll be easier for us to pass it on to the customers, who will also take it with them and pass it on to the people they know.
Yep.
So if the industry themselves don't understand this, or no one in the industry wants to take action with this, then unfortunately it will take a lot longer for this for these changes to come into effect. So
yeah, we've definitely got to find a solution, right?
Oh yeah, we have to find a solution, and fairly quickly, not leave it for the next generation to come up and, like, you know, take on what we are doing.
No.
It should make it easier for them to, like, sort of just take it and just use it. Like, you know, how coffee's changed over the years. Like, you know, you've just gone from just extracting a shot, just put a scale under the shot and you can measure it. So they've come in and taken that and started using it to make their life easier. So they should be able to take this information, use it for their benefit, not to, like, struggle with it.
Yeah, and go ahead.
And sort of not have that misconception of things that they're doing, or have that or have that thinking where I'm doing something that's right, this person's doing something that's not right. So once that goes away,
there's a lot of that, isn't there?
So much easier for us to touch on everything that we've talked about today and put it out there to the general public and be like, this is what's happening. You're happily paying what's what $8 or $10 for a bottle of beer.
Yep.
why can't we do the same thing for a cup of coffee? Like you would just walk in there. No one goes like, oh, I walked into this place and there was no interaction from the person who was behind the counter. I had to grab my own cup. I had to grab my own beer and then pay for it myself and then walk out. No interaction. No one says that, but people are so easily able to say that, like, oh, I walked into this cafe, the barista just kept looking down. No interaction. I paid $4 for my cup of coffee. So easily, right? People are able to say that. So we need to change that first to start charging $8 for a cup of coffee at least.
And I don't know how we do that. This is something I've dedicated a significant amount of brain power to, having worked in a number of different countries in coffee. And my challenge in trying to find a way that we change consumer behavior, particularly in a place like Sydney or in Melbourne, is that people have a fairly concrete understanding of what their $4 or their $5 buys them in a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a very realistic understanding that there's loads of cafes.
Yeah.
What I don't know is whether those cafes are understanding that they're running as zombie businesses.
Mm.
And a part of the way that we get to where we're hoping to get to as an industry, where we can charge a reasonable price for the product that we're selling, is do we have to help cafes? It's going to sound very Thanos-like of me, so
Go for it.
do we have to help cafes close if they are struggling to figure out a way to do that with dignity so that nobody finds out that they weren't operating at a profit? Most cafes are not operating at a profit. Most cafes think that they're operating at a profit, but aren't aware that every time, because they've got a loyalty program or because they give away coffee for free or whatever, every now and then, they're not realizing that their coffee program is costing them more money than they're bringing in the door. But because it's a high revenue focused business, they see $2 million coming in every year. And they're like, I made $2 million this year.
Yeah,
right.
But they're just looking at the number.
They don't know how to understand the profit and loss side of things, and they don't know how to understand the cost breakdown analysis. And I think we were insulated in the Sydney coffee scene in a different way during the pandemic than other parts of the world, because those zombie businesses that were existing, once they were stress tested by the pandemic, they closed.
Yes.
The pandemic took care of that. I don't think that happened here.
No.
There was a little beep there to confirm that. It's just going to be interesting to see what ends up happening moving forward with the way that we can help play a role in getting profitable as an industry.
Well, I think the next 6 months we will definitely see a lot more businesses close.
Yep.
A lot more cafes close, or a lot more businesses up for sale. That's definitely going to happen.
And that's because, for some context for anyone who doesn't know why this time is significant in Australia, the government assistance called JobKeeper has run out about 2 weeks ago. And that was subsidizing wages for employees. And that was the way that the government was helping small businesses stay afloat. Now that safety net has been taken away, and businesses that were zombie businesses are not going to have that anymore to help leverage their position during the pandemic. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, as I said, like, those businesses will close. They will need to close, and people who are sort of experienced in hospitality or the coffee side may or may not want to buy those businesses and rebrand it and do a better job. Speaking to a few people the past couple of weeks, they've shown interest. If someone was selling a business, depending on where the location was, and if they were selling a business and they think that they could do a better job by smashing it down or whatever it is, and do a better job at rebranding it and coming up with their own concept and like put that there and do a better job, then they would get it, depending on the location as well. Like if it's a good location, if it's got a lot of now people aren't looking for high rises, they're looking for suburbs, businesses that are closing down in suburbs, because a lot of people are working from home.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen. Saying that, I've also met up with a few owners who have gone through the whole COVID situation, and they've actually said, you know what, it was a good thing because it has sort of cleansed out the system where you had struggling businesses everywhere, and it's sort of gotten rid of that. And as I said, it just came down to the dignity side of like people wanting to close, but they didn't want to close because, you know, it just came down to that. And then like this COVID came as a blessing to some of them.
Yeah, it helped them close with dignity.
They've gone, oh, wow, okay, this was a sign, close, that's it. And then there's been people who have done amazingly well through COVID.
Yeah.
Who got this, who've got a different way of thinking of utilizing what they've got and changing up their business system so they can adapt to the changes that came like all of a sudden. And I think those are the people who will be able to be successful, or who will be able to help us change this whole system when it comes to the change that we want.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
they can take on what we are saying and adapt those changes to their business.
So you're hopeful?
I am hopeful. I am very hopeful. That's why I come to the meetings.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm excited about what is ahead of us as a community, and how exciting it is to see the shift geographically of where coffee is like popping in Sydney and where people drink. Like it's like rediscovering our industry again.
Yeah, that is very true. And it also comes down to speaking freely about things, speaking freely about coffee, not being hesitant to share what you're thinking.
It's a real problem.
Well, yeah, it is for fun. But saying that, I'm talking more about the consumer's perspective, or what the people who sort of drink coffee at home. They sort of look up to the barista who's making their coffee, or jump onto YouTube where they can see James Hoffman talking about coffee, and someone else who's talking about coffee, and they sort of follow them a lot more. And if that person was to share something and say, do it this way, everyone does it that way. No one has the balls to be like, you know what, I'm going to take that as a guide and do it my way and see what happens. So I've noticed that people are more open to the fact that they want to be educated. They want to learn. They've gone through watching a lot of YouTube videos, being stuck at home for 3 or 4 months. And every single video they've been watching, it's all been different. No one's been talking about the same thing. Everyone's got their own opinion or own ideas.
In the coffee industry, come on, bro.
Nah, that doesn't happen, does it? Surely.
We're all one people, we hold hands and we sing Kumbaya and agree on everything.
Life would be much, 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 much more easier.
Wouldn't it?
It would, 100%. We wouldn't be sitting here and having this discussion right now. Changes would be happening if that was happening. So the people who are trying to learn about coffee, who've been stuck at home and who want to learn more about coffee, how to make better coffee at home, whatever it may be, if you tell them, like, this is the way of the future and this is what's going to happen, if you tell them, like, what we are doing, charging $4 for a cup of coffee is not viable for a business, or it's not viable for the industry, they would be more than happy to be open to the ideas that we've got.
But we don't put any effort into educating our public about
No,
that.
because
Right.
we are fighting amongst ourselves to
Yeah.
be the best. So,
Yeah. I
which
mean, that's the
is,
objective of the town hall, right? We want to raise this awareness as a community within ourselves so that we
mhm,
can all get on the same page about, like, hey, this is what's broken about our industry. And one of
mhm,
those things is our consumers have no idea that the model that we operate on is so super fucked
yeah,
that it may, I mean, there's an illusion out there because there's so many cafes open. It must be a profitable business because so many people do it.
yeah.
It's the opposite of that.
Is the opposite of that. If you don't have a solid backing, if you don't have a solid financial backing, opening up a cafe is the last thing that I would do.
Yeah, man. But people come to me and say, "Hey, I've got 60 grand and I want to open a coffee shop. Where's the most important place to spend that money?" And I'm like, "On a holiday."
Yeah.
If you think 60 grand is going to get you a cafe that has enough money for operating expenses to carry you through the first 12 months, which is how you should open a cafe. You don't just account for the budget to get you to day one and doors open. Your budget,
Mhm.
your starting capital needs to include wages and rent for the first 12 months.
Yeah.
That's what starting capital has to include. And if it doesn't,
Mhm.
you are significantly increasing your chances of failure. It's just as simple as that. So when somebody comes to me and says, I've got 60 grand and I want to open a cafe, you've got no business opening anything other than a pop up.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true. That is very true. It's the same. It's the same misconception that people have who open the business and think the first couple of days or even the week, they go through about 55 kilos to 60 kilos of coffee,
Mm,
and they go, okay, this is what we'll be doing for forever. That's not actually true, because
no.
those people will be coming in to try your coffee,
Curiosity.
curiosity, and it'll bump your kilos up for the first week and it'll start dropping down.
Yeah.
Now, you will need to work really hard to get it back up to that 55 to 60 kilos the first week that you've done, like those 55 to 60 kilos. It may take you 12 months, 24 months, even 36 months. So whatever the indication is in the first week, it's probably going to be half of that. So
Oh, yeah. Is it going to cost you twice as much to open a cafe? It's going to take twice as long for the fit out, and you're going to make half the amount that you project you'll make.
yeah,
That's
so
the
same
golden
thing, like,
formula.
yeah, exactly. And if you've got a couple of mil sitting in the bank account, then it's awesome. But then you'll eventually run out, and you'll eventually need to start making money. And if you're just solely relying on coffee to make that money, that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
Are you doing consulting work?
I am not.
Okay, we need to have a
Um,
conversation. I think that you're
I
perfectly positioned to start doing consulting work.
I do free consulting, which is a very expensive passion to have.
Yes. We should have a conversation off air about this. And as
Sure.
we've been talking for a couple of hours already,
Yeah.
goes like that.
Yeah.
Kunal, I really want to, first of all, say thank you for the integrity that you bring to what you do. And second of all, express how excited I am that we finally have cross paths after 20 years in the industry. Um, I feel I feel like I have a kindred spirit in the industry now. So we both come from the old school kind of way of doing coffee, and we're still here and, still both trying to find ways that we can leave a legacy for the next wave of people who are going to own businesses and be long-term coffee professionals here in Sydney. So, I'm really excited about getting to know you more and having you back on the podcast and seeing the incredible ways that people are going to learn from you and grow from you and all that kind of cool stuff. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. And it's just one of those industries where, you're so passionate about it, but at the same time, you just want to get a divorce from it.
Oh yeah. But our industry is better in Sydney because you're in it. And
it is.
That's our industry is fortunate to have people like you who have stuck it out and still have the intention of trying to make it a better place, because hospitality is hard.
Hospitality is very hard. It's super hard.
And often ungratefully so.
Yeah. It's one of those industries where people walk all over you. Like so not everyone realizes what hospitality actually brings to not just the city but the country as a whole. Once people sort of realize that, then they'll be a bit more, I don't know what's the word I should use,
forgiving,
a bit more respect for the people in the industry.
Right.
Especially people who are passionate and willing to share the information and sort of pass on the education or the experiences, I would say, for the next generation who are up and coming.
That might be a great topic for the town hall discussion.
It would be an amazing topic. It's just an amazing topic for anything, really, like people who are coming into the industry. One advice I would sort of pass on to anyone who's listening, who's wanting to get into the industry and who's wanting to especially get into the coffee side of things, is to come with an open mind. Don't come in and have or have your own ideas. Have an open mind where you are able to take other people's ideas in, as well as share your ideas, but most importantly, take in as much information as you can get and use it and make it your own. Don't have to do things a certain way. You don't have to use a certain recipe. Use it, taste it, whatever you're doing, use it, try it, and then make it your own. That's the best advice I can give someone. Just come with an open mind.
Sage words. Seriously, you have to go through it to understand that you have to end up at a place where you're coming from the perspective of, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just open to learning. I'm just open. Like that's when you've met a wise person who the advice that they're giving people is be open and learn. That's it. So I'm really grateful for us crossing paths. I'm excited about becoming friends and learning from you and experiencing Sydney through, recommendations that you give me. It's a very exciting time. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
No worries. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And it'll happen again.
I hope. Looking forward to it.
Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day.